If people breathe and relax, they don't need to eat nearly as much. You can learn to relax using movement, using breathing. An hour before competing, it was like a mad parade of every demon of self-doubt I've ever had. You're too skinny, you're too weak, you're pathetic, you're too old.
What actually needed to happen to you to understand that you feel very down and you want to change?
You know, we can go for weeks without food. What we think is hunger is not necessarily hunger. Struggle with addiction for years. Got into smoking pot and other substances when I was young.
Talk to me a little bit about Ninja Warriors.
But better that way than being on your deathbed and being like, I have no fucking idea who I am, you know? So,
Jonathan Angelilli.
yes,
Was that right?
That was right.
Thank you so much for taking time to come to my place here.
I love it here.
Okay, Jonathan, tell me something about yourself and about your journey.
My journey is kind of a few different chapters. The first chapter was growing up in Queens, New York City.
Where in Queens?
In Douglaston, beautiful neighborhood. And was into sports, but not really working out. Fell in love with a girl who was into guys with muscles, started working out. Had a very challenging struggle with addiction for years. Got into smoking pot and other substances when I was young. And so that was this first chapter, was overcoming this huge kind of drug addiction. And it was movement, meditation, and connection to nature that really helped me overcome it. So there was childhood, then there was this struggle with addiction, and then there was this kind of rebirth through fitness. And then I started, you know, training from there 23 years ago.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't expect this, but I want to go back to this addiction thing. I love. I don't know if you're open to talk about it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I would love to say something. Please explain to me when did you feel you got addicted to drugs and different stuff, and why do you think is that?
When I got addicted, that's a great question. I mean, the first time I smoked pot, I laughed my ass off for like 4 hours straight. I mean, people wanted to be around me. It was like that infectious laughter. I had chronic depression, you know, from a young age. And I think smoking pot allowed me to feel good in my body, maybe for the first time. And a lot now of why I work out and how working out kind of rescued me was because it helped optimize my brain chemicals so I could feel good in my body. But it's an interesting question. When did I get first addicted? You know, I don't know, because it was a very slippery slope, you know, like at first I thought I could control it for a while, and then it like just took over my life and led to a lot of other drugs and bad decisions. And so it's an interesting question.
Tell me something about that. So, when it comes to big addiction, when you say like you realize you got addicted to it, and you were like, just that this went over like everything else, right? Like your decisions and everything else. First of all, when did you decide that you had depression? When did you not decide? When did you realize that?
Yeah, I was clinically diagnosed with it, I think when I was maybe 13 or something like that. I don't know if I really understood even what that meant at the time. But it was clear I had a lot of anger and a lot of sadness, as a lot of teenagers do, and I was asking a lot of big questions about life and reality, and I wasn't getting any answers that resonated. I had you know, I was very privileged, so there were people around me that loved me, and that was very important for my kind of self-rescue. And at the same time, there was no one that I really looked up to guide me on this kind of rite of passage.
All right. So do you think that a lot of kids go through the same thing, and how many kids do you think actually overcome this? You don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think that, you know, rites of passage are incredibly important, and we kind of have the symbols of them now, like graduating high school or graduating you know, middle school or upper school, or bar mitzvah, or depending, you know, there's still some traditions, but by and large the Western culture has lost those rites of passage. They're still out there. You have to go out and seek them, and I actually did do that later in life. It's funny we're doing this today because this is the 12-year anniversary of my vision quest. Which was a rite of passage I did through an amazing school called the School of Lost Borders. which if you're interested in that, we can certainly talk about it. But yeah, having a mentor and a guide, I think from, you know, through puberty, there's something that needs to die so something new can be created. And having, you know, elders and rituals and culture that can guide you through that process is incredibly important. And in general, in modern culture, they are missing, or they're just the symbol of it without the actual effort, struggle, adversity, you know, trial, testing yourself, etc.
What actually needed to happen to you to understand that you feel very down and you want to change? Is there anything particular that happened, or you just were sick of it?
Yeah, it was a gradual building up of, like, you know, it was watching a lot of things deteriorate in my life and watching the quality of my relationships deteriorate, seeing what was happening to some of my friends. You know, I had friends who died from drinking and driving, or got arrested from drug dealing, and all those things kind of added up. But for me, it was this kind of personal reckoning of, like, this is not who I want to be, and I don't know how to change this, but I know that I'm responsible for it. And that was a very important moment for me that I had, looking in the mirror when I was 17, 18 years old, and saying, like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm doing this. I'm not a victim. And so if I'm doing this, I can stop. I don't know how I'm going to stop. And there was this moment of reckoning in the mirror that really was my rock bottom and was this catalyst for, and I had had moments of trying to psych myself up and trying to change before that, but it was incomplete. You know, in that moment, it was like my first encounter with myself as a you know, a 17-year-old becoming an adult.
When you go back now and think about this, do you think that there are a few things that might actually were very important for you to get where you were? Do you think that's family, environment?
Yes.
Or not being loved enough?
I mean, what helped me get out of it, or what?
No, what actually happened to you? You actually now know what happened.
It was a lack.
Like, why that happened to you?
I think it was a lack of, I mean, I think it was meant to be, kind of. I think it was like my path, partly. I think it was mostly a lack of guidance and mentorship. And, like, I was privileged, and there's a lot of resources and tools, but not the ones that spoke to me.
Right.
And so I needed someone in my life, a man, an older man, a mentor that had done this and been through this work of self-development and spirituality. And I didn't have that. I had books, and I had interests, and I had some teachers that kind of helped me a little bit, but not that person-to-person, you know, mentor. I had a little taste of it in martial arts when I was younger, but yeah, I think that's what was missing, was this mentorship.
Tell me something about that guy a little bit more.
Who would he be?
Yep, no, that mentorship part.
Well, so, I mean, I had a sensei. I took karate. I went into, you know, I saw The Karate Kid when I was, you know, maybe 5 years old, and Ralph Macchio literally looks like me, and I felt exactly like he did. Like, I didn't belong, and I was kind of a loser. And I walked out of that movie theater and right into the dojo and started to train karate until I got my black belt. I think I was like 12 or 13 years old. And that was one of the first tastes I had of what I would call exercise alchemy, which is this ability for exercise to kind of transform you on the inside radically. My sensei had us, you know, hold our arms out to the side for, you know, and he said we were going to hold our arms out to the side and train the entire class with our arms out to the side. And it was just, you know, 90 seconds in, it's burning like something you've never experienced before in your entire life. And I don't know how I did it, but I went into this trance or something. I just did it. I just said, my sensei wants my arms out to the side, so I'm going to do it. And that was this first little taste of, like, you know, reality is not what I necessarily experience it to be on an everyday basis. And that kind of planted the seed for me that I've, you know, been privileged to kind of cultivate and nourish over the years. This idea of exercise being radically transformative from the inside out. It's not a new idea. It's a quite old idea, but when you discover it inside yourself, it's very different than reading about it or hearing about it.
Okay, so what happened after that?
after the karate? Or,
yes, after karate.
Well, I kind of lost my way with movement a little bit. I was very athletic, but I got into girls and drugs and music and hip hop. You know, I grew up in Queens in the 80s, so hip hop was like a religion for us. It wasn't just music, and that became my world, and doing graffiti and freestyle rapping and like, you know, break dancing. And I guess I lost touch with part of myself, but I discovered these other parts that were very, very beautiful. But that thread of fitness wasn't there until I finally had this like breakthrough moment in the mirror. And that, you know, allowed me to kind of rescue myself.
How old were you when there was a breakthrough?
That was like 17, yeah.
17. And then what did you start doing after that?
So after that is when I started hitting the gym.
All right.
And it wasn't about like, God, I'm such a loser and I'm messing up my life and I got to get my life on track, because I didn't know how to do that. But I knew I liked girls, and I knew that the girls that I were into guys with muscles. And so I started training in the gym. I felt really skinny, and, you know, I loved movement, but I wasn't into gyms.
Right.
But then I went into bodybuilding, and I never competed, but I took it very seriously for a good 4 or 5 years. And it was this next level of transformation. I just felt so much more confident, so much more comfortable in my skin, so much happier in general. And so that was kind of this second transformation.
All right. Yeah. Is there any other transformation? Because I know there are.
Oh, yeah, there is. I mean, so then I started working at a really hot gym called The Gym, and it was on 26th Street, and it was like all the models worked out there, and I was just like, you know, I was the manager there, and we had an amazing training team, and then I injured my neck.
Wow.
Pretty seriously, snowboarding. And now I have to go through this other transformation, because I'm like, who the fuck am I? Like, I thought I was this fit trainer dude, and now I can't work out the same way. And that brought me even deeper into meditation, qigong, tai chi, dream work, all kinds of interesting recovery, cold plunges, etc. So, and that was I was only in my, you know, early 20s when that happened. So it was like, I have a tendency to go through kind of intense growth and developmental transformation experiences quickly, you know. I had to, but better that way than being on your deathbed and being like, I have no fucking idea who I am, you know. So we kind of put on these masks in life, right? We try on these different identities, and that's normal. But there's something underneath that's really amazing. And so if we identify with the mask always, then we never find out what's behind it.
Yes, that's very, very, very true. I totally agree with you. Yeah. So you had a second transformation. Now you're going deeper. You want to know a little bit more about yourself. You are into meditation more, right?
And healing. How do I heal myself? How do I feel good in my body if I can't work out with high intensity?
All right. How did you heal yourself? Like how did you end up like actually learning about it?
I just took it. I kind of was faced with this choice. All the doctors said I needed neck surgery. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying surgery is bad, but in my heart, I knew it wasn't right for me. I was in my, I was 25 or 24 at the time. I just knew that wasn't the right thing. And so I had this experience of already transforming myself through addiction. And that was own the problem. You're not a victim, own the problem. Almost like pretend like you did it on purpose. Pretend like you needed to get addicted in order so you could learn things. Pretend like you needed to injure yourself. Your injury is actually a teacher. It's not hurting you. It's actually helping you, guide you back to pulling away this mask and figuring out who you are. And that's what I did. So I owned the problem. I'm not going to get surgery. I'm going to figure out how to heal it. And I had to go through many different chiropractors, ART, MAT, osteopaths, till I found people that could really, really help me. And that was part of it, was getting proper care. And then the other part was Tai Chi and Qigong and learning how to work in a much more elegant and subtle way with the body and its energies. And that really helped heal me. And I'm able to do all kinds of amazing shit with my body at age 42. It's almost 20 years since I've gotten injured. It could have easily been this thing that then defined the rest of my life. And now I don't really even think about it. But it wasn't a quick fix, right? Like it took like 3 or 4 years of really working through it.
So your motivation was to heal yourself first,
yes.
Right? When you decide to heal others, when you actually realize you can do for yourself, right?
Well, yeah, that was part of it. I mean, I got to go to NYU. I moved from Queens to New York City in 2000, and I needed a job. So I just started working out, and my dear friend Amanda, I think she saw how earnest I was and how into working out I was. She was like, "Good, just get certified." So I got my ACE certification, and it was just, I didn't know I was going to get into like healing people through movement. It was just like, it made sense for that next step. And so I started working, you know, training other people. And at first it was very kind of bodybuilding style. For a good 7 years, it was really bodybuilding, because that's what helped me. But then I learned these other practices in myself. And so once you embody it, it's easier to share it with other people. And then I worked out of Peak Performance, which was, you know, rated the 7th best gym in the country by Men's Health back in, I think, 2011, back when print mattered. I ran my own business out of there for over a decade. And then I was surrounded by all these strength coaches and inspiring people. And I learned a lot about the nervous system and intelligent program design. And so it's been a process of learning different things. And so gradually over 23 years, I've stepped more and more into that kind of healer role. People may think of me as a personal trainer, but it's a radically unconventional approach.
So it's more about energy healing, right?
Yeah.
What's energy?
What is energy? I mean, it's chi, which is untranslatable, but it's if I were to attempt, it's this life force that permeates us. It's this streams, you know, just like the planet has streams and rivers and oceans of bodies of water that move through it and bring nourishment to the land. The human body has that too. And, you know, it's a radically different approach, because in the West, we say, well, if we can't see it, then it doesn't really exist, or we don't focus on it in science. You know, and I have a degree in science. Like, I'm not poo-pooing on science, but it's really only half the story. You know, if you look at a modem, you know, Western science would say, okay, we're going to figure out what the modem is. Let's take it apart and look at the wiring and the inside. But no amount of taking it apart, right, is going to show you the field of energy that it creates to transmit information. We all have those fields of energy inside of us that transmits information. And so, yeah, you have to plug the Wi-Fi router in, and then you can connect and get all this information that, for most people, they're asleep to it.
Can you feel people's energy even if you don't touch them?
Yes, yes. Because it doesn't end at the skin. There's actually several layers of energy out. And there are people that are much more talented in that regard than me. And some people can see it. I can't. For me, it's more of like a knowing. I just start to know certain things. And then I don't assume that my knowing is 100% correct. I remain curious. But it's like getting pieces of the puzzle and seeing how they fit in. And that's really how I approach training, is figuring out what makes that person tick, what's going to allow them to come alive in their life. I mean, people don't come in to lose 5 or 10 pounds. They don't come in to, you know, get into a size 6 dress. They think that's what it is, but they're coming in for freedom. And what that looks like for each person could be very different. But having that framework and having this wide range of diverse tools, you know, I have 15 different certifications. I've done a 3-year training in traditional Chinese medicine, medical qigong, yoga, lots of recovery work, breath trainings, etc. That gives me a lot of different tools to pull from. But then I'm always with this question of what's going to help this person come alive in their life, love and respect their body in a deep way, and cherish it and want to move it and want to explore what it's capable of.
From all these tools you have, what do you think it's one of the most important thing for people to improve with? I have another question too.
Yeah.
If someone is not mindful,
Yeah.
doesn't even understand energy, comes to you and said, Jonathan, I want to lose like 10 pounds. I want to go back to the thing you just mentioned before, because it's very, very interesting. People come for results. When we ask them a little more deeper about what they actually want, not really that they just want to lose body fat.
Right.
So they want to actually something more. If you can choose one thing that you think it's the most important for people to improve, what that would be?
If I had to choose one thing, it would probably be learning to relax. You can learn to relax using movement, using breathing, using developmental movement on the floor, primal movement. That has been such a game changer for most of all of my students at this point. So it's not common understanding that you can learn to relax, but it is a skill, and it's such a useful one in life. And I don't mean just like calming your mind, although that's good too, but all our bodies build up habitual tension, and that drains our system. And when there's excess tension, it's like carrying around a weight. And when you relieve some of that tension, it's very liberating. It frees up a lot of energy, and then people want to move, and then you can find more creative ways to move. So my broad answer is learning how to relax. I've taught people just how to relax and breathe and doing floor movement. No high intensity exercise whatsoever. I've done this with 4 different people, and they've all lost 35 to 50 pounds in 3 months, which most people will tell you is not possible. They'll say it's not healthy, it's going to bounce back. All of them kept it off for months after that. And it was a huge part because I helped them breathe and relax. If people breathe and relax, they don't need to eat nearly as much. So much of food is just trying to make ourselves feel better and habit. And so, you know, we can go for weeks without food. I'm not saying people should do that. I'm saying what we think is hunger is not necessarily hunger. It's a little bit of discomfort, or maybe it's a psychological hunger for comfort or for friendship, or, you know, you're lonely or whatever it is. So again, I'm not saying that people should go out and fast. That can be a useful tool. I am just saying that learning how to relax, you manage stress better. If you manage stress better, you don't emotionally eat. If you don't emotionally eat, you just start to lose weight. Most people, they're really medicating themselves with food. It's the easiest, quickest way to help them feel better. And then managing food, yeah, that's important. But if you don't get rid of the stress first, it's the same thing with addiction. If you don't get rid of the reason why they're destroying their life, what is that deep pain inside of them? What is that stress, that thing that they can't say or acknowledge even? Then it's always going to weigh on them, and they might go from pot to porn to doom scrolling or whatever it is, or gambling. It doesn't matter, but it's all trying to fill that same hole. So try to work with that hole, figure out how to fill it up from the inside. And learning how to breathe and relax, oh my God, does that give people another, you know, it's a total game changer.
I can't agree more on this with you. I've tried my own. I totally understand what you're talking about, and I want to talk more about this. I feel we need more of this.
Yes.
I've been talking to a lot of trainers. We talk only about like nutrition. We should eat less, a little more protein. We should work out more. We all know that.
Yeah.
But what about breathing? What about relaxing? What about mindfulness?
Yeah.
How many times do you think that people, like, how often people should do meditation or being with themselves or anything when it comes to like this understanding themselves inside?
But this is where the art comes in, because you really want to meet people with where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
And 2, 3, 4 minutes of breathing a day can be a wonderful way for people to start. I don't like a general prescription because Westerners are very obsessive, and I definitely include myself in that category. And so they can take a good technique and create a bad effect with it because they try so hard,
right?
You know, so they get stuck in this, I have to meditate 20 minutes every morning, and then they meditate like this. And not that many teachers want to say it, but I'm very privileged because I have a classically trained teacher who represents a real authentic lineage. There's a lot of culturally appropriated spiritual practice out there that's missing a lot. And I hate to break it to people, but there is such a thing as bad meditation. Like if you meditate like this, angry and fighting yourself for 20 minutes a day because you think you're a robot and you have to do it for 20 minutes, that's going to have a negative effect.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you're much better off doing 1 or 2 minutes of breathing and relaxing, something you enjoy. The word meditation is already wrong. It's the misperception of, you know, missionaries when they went to the East and saw people sitting, and they called it meditation because they didn't know what it was. And that has this this connotation of contemplation or thinking, or maybe a little less wrong is relaxing, but it's really a blissful practice. It's a sense of rapture. Rapture is a much better translation of it. And so anything you do that helps you relax and feel and feel pleasure, in my mind, can be at least a gateway into meditation. It could be writing, it could be painting, it could be breathing, it could be walking in nature. But that sense of pleasure with relaxation, and receiving, right? And that kind of not receiving from like a screen, right? Not that kind, but like something else, something more authentic.
So something deeper.
Deeper.
Yeah, I like this. So you want to say that regular people should first learn how to breathe?
Yes.
When I say regular people, our clients who come here and then they want to feel better.
Yeah.
I promise you, I think so, that people cannot feel better if they're always in rush.
That's right.
I told you I want to create a program that it's very short for people who are out of their mind. They want to just do like 25 minutes workout and then just leave, be productive, be efficient. And I believe that can work. But if they do only that and there is no breathing exercise, there is no calm in their mind, they don't think about anything else, I cannot prove, not even to myself, that it will work. So that's why I want to know a little bit more about that. So what is the easiest and breathing technique that you teach your people when they start?
I call it rescue breathing. In the research, it's called cyclic breathing. It's very simple. You do an inhale through your nose, another sip through the nose, so you get really full, and then you do a long exhale with a sigh through the mouth. So
mouth or nose?
Yeah.
Mouth.
So double inhale through the nose, big inhale, little inhale, nose, all nasal, and then long exhale, mouth with an auditory sigh.
How long?
So ideally you would do that for 1 to 5 minutes. But the research shows that helps people regulate. It helps people calm down. It helps people feel better in their body. It boosts their mood. It makes the, I've had students that just through breathing, I work with a lot of mothers and a lot of women, and mother-daughter relations can be quite challenging sometimes, where the mother unconsciously...
In specific age.
Yeah, I work a lot with new moms, so it often can be women in their 30s. But then I also work a lot with menopausal women. So I really enjoy these two phases, because there's such a hormonal revolution through motherhood and menopause, and that revolution creates like a great moment to actually help someone recreate their life, because a lot of things that used to be set are kind of becoming more malleable, so you can really create something beautiful, a new chapter. All that to say that I had a student, and she hadn't seen her mother in a while. Mother comes in, oh, your arms are getting fat. Now, any other time in her past, that student would have gotten so upset, it would have colored the interaction. The mother was there staying with her for the weekend. I mean, it would have been an unpleasant experience because she was attacked, right? Her mother loves her. It's not about that. But there's a lack of wisdom, right? And so she'd been doing this breath work, and she went from kind of on the verge of a panic attack for a while coming out of COVID, really not feeling good, feeling very sensitive to everything in life, to just calmly looking in her mother's face and saying, I don't like it when you comment on my body, please stop. And then moved on. And the mother, because it came from such a calm inner strength, the mother, there's nothing to grab onto. There's no fight. It's just this neutrality that is totally, it leaves them without weapons, It's like a mirror. It allows the mother to see a little more clearly what she just did unconsciously. And so that was all through breath work. That was all. So this is a very interesting idea that I wish more trainers would understand, and more general population would kind of appreciate, is that emotional regulation is built on having your senses integrated, and having this sense of like a calm nervous system, and that you can train your nervous system to calm down through relaxation and breath work. So
how many people in the gym you see that are relaxed and calm?
Not too many, I love trainers, and many of them have their heart in the right place. It kind of gets to one of my pet peeves, is when people say stretching, because muscles don't stretch. They only do two things. They contract and they relax. Those are the only two things, right? I'm not saying that the body doesn't have elastic properties, right? Like if I do this and I snap my finger, yeah, it has elastic properties, but that's much more the passive tissues, the ligaments and tendons and bone. So understanding this, that muscles do only two things on a continuum, contract and relax. Well, then as a trainer, I feel like you have to be able to train the contract part and train the relax part equally. And in my mind, those are the two wings of the plane that let people take off and soar. And yeah, you could be jacked in this earthly realm, but why limit yourself to the earthly realm when you can recreate yourself and live in another world that's more beautiful? I mean, there's plenty of fit people that are dying on the inside, but they might look beautiful and have amazing photos on Instagram. So I'm not interested in that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I was there like probably like 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
And when I was trying just to, you know, to prove others that I have a beautiful body, and then I was not honest with myself, maybe sometimes not even with others. And I was not feeling great at all. I was overworked. I was burned out, that I didn't know what it means back then. Didn't practice meditation at all. Didn't really take care of my mind that much. But once you do that, it changes everything.
You're happier now, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Even if I'm not, I'm with myself.
Right.
I'm not happy. I'm okay with that.
Right.
I'm not trying to escape.
Right.
Maybe sometimes that I'm not aware, but most of the time I am present with my sadness. I'm present with my happiness. I'm present with the way I feel, and it's totally fine. What I realized that, like, if I put myself in a specific stress on purpose, it actually helps me to later on to deal with stress and to deal with these kind of uncomfortable situations in my life, but I don't want to escape from them anymore.
Right.
That's
and
for sure.
That was my experience, right? I stopped trying to escape my life through drugs and said, this is my life, I'm doing this, and being present with it. That's literally what was help train, you know.
It's really hard though.
Oh no, it is. It's a constant practice too. Like, we can get better at it, but we still have blind spots.
Yeah, I mean, of course, every single day. You're very diverse. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions.
I know.
You're very limited, but let me talk to me a little bit about Ninja Warriors. What happened there?
So my daughter was born in 2014, and I always had a dream of competing on American Ninja Warrior. I love climbing.
Why is that?
I don't know. It just speaks to my soul. It wasn't about being on TV. It was about climbing and obstacles. And I love rock climbing. And when I was younger, I loved climbing trees. I would spend hours in trees. It was some of my like first most beautiful memories, 5, 6 years old. Excuse me. And so it just spoke to my soul, but I had this deep fear around it. Oh, I can't be that person. Who the fuck is that person? Because I was shy.
This is very interesting.
I was very, very shy.
Talk to me about this fear. I love talking about fear.
Yeah, it was this fear of like embarrassment, of not belonging, of being a loser, and you know, I can't do that. That's too cool. That's too awesome.
What other people will say if I don't succeed.
Right, that whole thing, which is basically ego. And when my daughter was born, she taught me so much. I mean, this is one of the biggest secrets about parenthood that I'm sure you know. And it's a secret we continue to learn, is that our children are there to teach us. And the sooner you figure that out, the better, for everyone involved. And so I had this deep dream of competing on this show, and I couldn't even say it out loud. And then my daughter came, and I was like, I want her to have the kind of father that is fearless. Fearlessness is a really important value in my life, because so many times fear has been a gateway to transformation, to a higher new evolution of myself. And so it's something I've learned to embrace and be curious about. And I wanted her to have a father that was fearless and fought for his dreams, and thought his dreams were more important than what other people might say or what might happen or getting injured or etc. And so it planted the seed in me, and I was able to compete on the show in season 8 and season 9, and I was able to help with production in season 10 and 11, testing obstacles. I was able to go to national finals. I was able to
national finals.
Yeah, wow. I made it to city finals in competition. That's a whole other amazing. That's one of the most important stories of my life. So maybe one day we can go there. But it was
we're gonna go back to.
It was terrifying. It was like, it was so beautiful. It was an altered experience. It was more like prayer or a mystical experience than it was like being on TV. It was like,
what was the most terrified moment that you remember?
It was that moment of right before, because I did really well in the qualifier, which means you get to go on the next night and compete in city finals. This is season 9 in Cleveland. And, you know, about an hour before competing, it was like a mad parade of every demon of self-doubt I've ever had in my life. You're too skinny, you're too weak, you're pathetic, you're you know, like you're too old, you know, you can't do this. Who do you think? I mean, to the point where I had to throw up, I had to defecate, and the world was spinning. Like, it was, when I say terrifying, I'm not using the word lightly. It was like only what I could imagine some, you know, real warriors experience when they actually have to go and put their life on the line. But for me, it was a moment of really putting my life on the line and dying to this story that had kept me in one place so I could be reborn in this other place. And I pierced through that fear. And it was one of the most, it's up there with my vision quest and witnessing the birth of both my children that city finals night. It was unbelievable.
Wow. Great. I mean, those are the most important moments probably in our life. And
yes.
Overcoming the fear, it's one of the biggest topic I want to talk about here. Without that, we cannot improve in any level, anything in our life. It's not only a business, anything else. But that's great. That's a great story.
I wrote a whole blog post about it. So if you're curious, I took photos, and it was a whole epic adventure and very important chapter of my life. And I still compete in World Ninja League, and I love it, and I learn. I mainly compete for that sense of self-mastery, of piercing fear, of learning how to master my body. I love the fact that you never get to try the obstacles beforehand. So it's really about observation and awareness and self-assessment and inner regulation and various movement patterns. And I really, really love competing for that reason. And I managed last year to take third in the Masters division in World Championships. So wow. It's a passion of mine.
Good job. That's a great achievement.
Thank you.
Tell me also, you mentioned that you heard a lot of different things in your mind before the finals.
Oh my God.
How do you hear that? How do you actually hear those thoughts? Some people they feel fear. They physically feel fear, like they're dying, but they don't know. They don't hear their thoughts. How do you hear like all of this?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it was literally voices in my head, coupled with physical discomfort.
Clear.
Yeah, it was auditory for sure, but it was kinesthetic as well. I definitely felt my whole body squeezing. My stomach was in a knot. I had to go to the bathroom. I felt like I was going to throw up. The world was spinning. So there was definitely a physical aspect to it. And then there was auditory, was like literally like thoughts that I was hearing of like, you're too old, you're going to get injured, you can't do this, et cetera, et cetera. And luckily, this is where Qigong and energy medicine is amazing, because I worked with that energy. I did a lot. I did breathing and sound work. I allowed my voice to channel that emotion, and that helped move the energy through me so I didn't get trapped in it. And then I did really well that night. That was that's probably the most athletic performance I'm most proud of in my entire life, was what I did at season 9 at City Finals. And it was because I was able to move the energy beforehand instead of get trapped in it.
How connected you have to be with yourself in order to move this energy?
I mean, anyone can learn it. You know, the stuff where I make people roll around on the ground, it emphasizes sensory input, information coming into the body versus motor output, energy going out. And when you get good sensory input, you are able to better to self-regulate. You have better what's called interoception. Interoception is this ability to sense, how hungry am I? Am I tired? What emotion am I feeling? You know, etc. So that is like, what an amazing skill. I mean, that's like having a cheat code, like, you know, to be able to know what's going on, because your body, hundreds of trillions of cells, is always talking to you, and your prefrontal cortex can only process like 7 to 9 bits of information. So learning how to work with your autonomic nervous system and communicate with your body in a deep way, it's like, that's what I love exploring. And I don't necessarily start clients and students off with that. I always have a mind of that. I'm going to sneak that in, but I'll give them what they want. You know, there's nothing wrong with wanting to lose a little bit of weight, but for me, it's always an entry into something deeper. And I really enjoy exploring that when, you know, everyone has their own process. So timing depends on the person.
Yeah, it depends on the person. Everyone's different. Okay, I'm gonna ask you very quick 2 questions, and you can go. I know.
No. We got 10 minutes on my end. Correct. So yeah.
So the number 1 is, where can people find you? I want you to mention that, because I feel like a lot of people are going to be interested in learning a little bit more. Maybe read about something on your Instagram. There is a lot of information there.
Yeah.
On the website, like the way you do, and then how you call your method. There's few of them, but
yeah. So on Instagram, I'm at bmn.coach. BMN stands for Breathe, Move, Nourish. So at bmn.coach. Breathe, Move, Nourish is my online signature program. It is like my effort to put 23 years of experience into an online program. And I also have my website, purestrength.nyc. And if you're more interested in the Ninja Warrior stuff or me talking about addiction, then my other website is Train Deep, which I like that you said that depth is very important to you. That used to be my Instagram handle, but traindeep.com is my other website. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Is there anything you want to share with people that we didn't cover and you think it can be valuable for some people to learn?
I would just say that whatever your deepest desire is, even if you're not sure what it is, you know, it's inside of you, and they say there's only 2 days that matter, right? Like the day you were born and the reason you find out why you were born, right? Everyone has a reason why they were born, and movement and breathing is an unparalleled tool into discovering what that reason is, why you were born, and cultivating the ability to manifest it. And it's a very radically different way of approaching fitness, but that would be one thing that I would want to invite each person, each listener to explore.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Also, I want to ask you one more question.
Sure.
If you can go back to your young Jonathan, who was addicted to drugs and stuff, what would you tell him now?
I mean, I think I did do that. I think there's like some time loop, because I think maybe that's what that moment was in the mirror, was like some future self, me saying, you can do this.
Right.
You are strong. And so I'll say it to, 17-year-old Jonathan, like, you are strong. You're going to do this. You're going to take all this shit that you've created in your life and you're going to turn it into fertilizer. That's the way nature works. And so you don't need to wallow in the shit and roll around in it. You can learn how to use it to take yourself to the next level and to feed yourself and your family.
Cool. Now I just want to say thank you so much for your time here. It was very valuable for me, as well as I'm sure for other people as well. And thank you so much for doing what you're doing for the world, because I think what you're doing, it's very amazing. I've tried my own and I completely understand, not maybe completely, but part of it. And I'm actually excited to have you again here in the near future. So we can talk a little bit more about different topics that can be also very valuable, and some insights, more insights for people to hear, because I think people need more of this than just from us regular training and working out and all of these.
I love talking about this stuff, and I know that you really care about people. I saw that very clearly when I first saw you. So I would be thrilled. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Thank you.